I would like to introduce our panelists for today. The first panelist is Liz Fitzpatrick, and she is my coworker. She's the Data and Communications Manager here at Wisconsin Literacy, where she manages our digital, printed, and video and social media content and strategy. She leads the event planning and communication strategy for the Celebration of Literacy and our yearly statewide conference as well. You also may have, you may work with her with our Achieve database as well. And she has a master's degree in mass communication from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Jeff Burkhart is also joining us. He's the Executive Director of Literacy Network of Dane County, a not-for-profit organization serving more than 1,000 adults and families in more than 30 locations. He has led the organization to significant expanded programming and partnerships, and they moved into a new custom design learning center in South Madison under his leadership. One collaborator wrote, since Jeff took the position of executive director at Literacy Network, we've bolstered programming, improved learner outcomes, become more connected to the community, and increased our exposure in the field of literacy statewide and nationally. Christy Sablanca is the co-director at the Portage County Literacy Council. She comes from the Northeast region where I work, and I have had the pleasure of working with her for the past 4 years while I was in this position. And she does great work in bringing Portage County together. And she is also, she also works with CAP services in Northeastern Wisconsin as well. Sheryl Hernandez is the Executive Director of the Kenosha Literacy Council. She believes strongly in investing in her community to make it a better place, and she served as the Executive Director for 6 years and has worked with the Literacy Council for the past 13 years. During this time, Kenosha Literacy Council has seen tremendous growth, and she works to ensure the Kenosha Literacy Council provides innovative research-based literacy programs and continues to strengthen its presence in the community. Okay, so with that, I am going to pass this over to Liz to talk about what we have done at Wisconsin Literacy. Oh, you're under Elizabeth. I'm looking for you alphabetically and I can't find you.
I like to keep you on your toes. I don't know why I picked Elizabeth this time, but
all right.
All right. Thank you, Anna. I'm going to share a little bit about what Wisconsin Literacy did to transform our in-person celebration of literacy to a virtual event. Yes, let me see. Okay. Oops, went too far. All right. So this is what the event looked like in 2018. Every even year, Wisconsin Literacy has an awards luncheon, the Celebration of Literacy, to recognize the outstanding achievements of our program, member programs, learners, tutors, and advocates statewide. It's an awareness event about the life-changing impact of literacy. It's an uplifting event, and it's a fundraiser for Wisconsin Literacy. When everything shut down because of COVID-19, we were about 7 weeks away from the event. The invitations had just been printed but had not been mailed. And we made a really quick decision actually not to have the event. We then alerted our very generous sponsors who let us keep the money as a donation. However, the very next week, I attended 2 webinars on how to create a virtual event fundraiser. And suddenly it seemed possible, like this is something we could do. So this is how the event ended up looking. That's me in the command center, as I like to call it. And I was controlling a bunch of things, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So this webinar, How Nonprofits Can Run an Online Event and Engage More People Virtually with Nikki and Simon, was really instrumental in helping me figure out how we could convert this in-person luncheon to an online virtual event. And based on some of the suggestions of Nikki and Simon, I decided to go with YouTube as our platform and pre-record all the pieces. So I pre-recorded the award recipients, the keynote speaker, and the dyslexia simulation, all except for Norma, the MC, because we wanted to keep a bit of that live feel. So she was doing the hosting of the event live when all the other pieces were pre-recorded. Wisconsin Literacy has a subscription to Adobe Creative Suites. So we had access to Premiere, which is a video editing software. So I was able to make one solid video piece with all this content, and then I did dips to black for the transition. So this is all the technical side of how we worked it. So I would then switch between the Zoom meeting that I had with Norma and these pre-recorded sessions. I decided to pre-record them to cut down on any technical issues and reduce the variables outside of my control, like audio issues or connectivity issues that might have arose if we had done every single aspect live. And I think because of that, we had a fairly seamless event. I decided to use YouTube because I wanted a broad audience and I wanted to allow that broad audience to have access to the content. You could use Facebook, for example. There's ways to stream Zoom to Facebook, and that could have been a technique to grow a Facebook audience, but it would have restricted the users to only Facebook users. And I didn't want to use only our Zoom Pro account because it's much more difficult to control how the audience participates. People can turn on and off their own audio and videos, and there was a size limit to the number of people on Zoom, and there's a size limit to the number of people on our GoToTraining accounts. And we wanted to maximize as many people seeing this content as possible. I learned a lot about integrating Zoom with YouTube and having a live event over the course of those 6 weeks from the point that we made the decision to make it virtual. I have a link in here how to stream a meeting on YouTube Live. That was very useful. It gives like point by point on how you do it. And that part wasn't very difficult. I was able to figure that out fairly easily. But I did spend a lot of time testing and working through variations on how the virtual event was going to look. The timing, the transitions, testing the YouTube chat feature, and editing the whole piece. I took up most of my April, but I'm happy to share with you what I learned and to save people any time going forward. So feel free to ask me any questions during the Q&A at the end of the session. So we had, I think, a really lovely theme that was based on Sean Robinson's graphic novel, Dr. Dyslexia Dude. But the question came in, how do you make an online virtual event engaging? So before the event, we asked people to share their favorite hero sandwich recipe. And then we shared links to that on our website, and I think also social media. We also shared photos and stories of our heroes on Facebook, the website, and the emails about the event. We asked people to share superhero selfies of themselves or loved ones, but that one didn't quite take off like the hero sub sandwich recipes and also doing these posts about our heroes. So here's a bit of what it looked like during the event and how we engaged people. So we made the decision to use the YouTube live streaming chat. I had 2 staff members, Anna and Beth, manning the chat, and then I had the speakers attend live. So Dr. Sean Robinson was there, as was Kelly Quincy. Both were in attendance to answer any questions that might happen. I'm actually really pleased by how this came out. There was a lot of sharing, and participants also had the option to sort of either to use the chat and to do the applause and to share what inspired them, or they could make the video full screen, and then they didn't have to see the chat if they found the chat distracting. We asked people to take selfies during the event and tag us, and I was very happy to see how people engaged with our event from all over the state. So it was really fun to see some of those photos after the event, because obviously I wasn't seeing them during, and I was able to share that after the event based on the tagging and the hashtagging. So finally, I wanted to share what my daughter calls wows and pows. So our wows were that we had over 500 views of the event since the time of the event. So since April, over 500 people have viewed this event, or there have been over 500 views. We were able to create an uplifting event at a really difficult time. And the other bonus with having done this way and I've been able to record it is that we can continue to use these pieces going forward as we share the important work that our members and their learners and tutors do. I'd say some of the POWs, looking back, was that I think we could have engaged sponsors and donors more in the event. For example, this is a post that I made like right before the event, and I tagged all our sponsors, and they shared in their networks and they encouraged people to attend. And it was sort of hindsight going, oh, we should have been doing more of this. But it was fantastic and really heartening to see our sponsors share the event with their networks on Facebook. We had just come from an online giving day in March, and it felt a little soon to have that on like another online giving day, virtual giving. We did do a soft ask of about $35 donation and above, and then we provided a Dr. Dyslexia Dude copy of the graphic novel for donors during that time. If we had to do it again, I would suggest that we do sort of a table captain peer-to-peer fundraisers model, and then those people are in charge of getting people to attend and encouraging donations and making it more of an online group engagement. For my final thoughts, I would encourage you all who are looking to do virtual fundraisers in the future to be bold and creative. This is a time for that creativity. There's a lot of different options, and even having only about like 6 weeks before the event, I was surprised that there was stuff out there telling me like how this was possible. So I know now there's even more things. So I'm really excited to hear from the other panelists on the different and creative ways that they converted their fundraisers to a virtual event. And on that note, Jeff, you can take it away.
Thanks so much, Liz. Let me see if I've got control. I have control. Excellent. Well, it's a great honor to be here with you. Thanks very much for asking me to participate on this panel. Anna, you do a great job, and Liz, both of you at Wisconsin Literacy, and I can't wait to hear what Christy and Sheryl have to offer. Our event was the day after the Wisconsin Literacy event. It was scheduled on April 30th, and let's see if I can advance the slide. There we go. So you are able to look at that link. The Zoom event that we did is online. At that link, you can watch. And we actually expanded our event in time. So we had the in-person event planned for the 30th of April. We made the call in mid-March to cancel the in-person event. At that time, we had about, I think, 130 tickets sold already. And we contacted all the people who had tickets and invited them to get a refund. And only one person took us up on it, and that was a person who had purchased 8 tickets, and they only wanted a refund on a few of them. So we were able to keep all of the revenue that we had from the ticket sales. We also were able to keep all the revenue that we had from sponsorships, about $7,500, and we actually expanded that a little bit. And then we were already talking about making a portion of the event online. So we were already looking at different tools that we could use to build up the cost or the item expense that people would pay for the silent auction. So we were thinking about online and being an option for us in that case as well. So I've got links to both the Reading Between the Wines event page, as well as the auction page there that you can take a look at. I'm going to go ahead and advance. So I'm going to tell you a bit about how Reading Between the Wines went to a virtual event. I'll give you some details about what it was like before and after COVID, what technological issues we needed to deal with, how we engaged the community, and what we learned from it. So the event, very similar to the celebration of literacy. We've been doing this event for 9 years now. It really is a celebration of our students and their writing. Each year we ask our students to submit writing on a theme. And this year the theme was Why I Won't Quit. We determined that theme in January, and we asked all of our students to submit writing on that theme. We had a book of about 50 submissions, and we were working on pulling that all together at the time that we made the decision to cancel the in-person event. This is kind of what it looks like. It's a wine event. We have a live auction. We have a silent auction at the event, and we usually have about 150 people at the in-person event. This was planned at the Madison Club this year, as well as it was held at the Madison Club last year. So when we made the call, we were already looking into using this website called schoolauction.net, because I had seen a library using it for their in-person event, as well as generating some excitement for the items in the auction. And that seemed to go really well. The event that I was looking at was held in late February. So we had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what they were doing and how they managed everything. And we took the advice of the staff at School Auction and had 64 items that were staggered in their release over a couple of weeks. So as I mentioned, we expanded the event to be a 2-week event starting on April 16th, wrapping up with an in-person, or sorry, a live event on April 30th. And we also had 50 bottles of donated wine for a wine pull, and people could just donate $20 and they would get a randomly selected bottle of wine from among our stock. The bottom line here was that we doubled the auction revenue from the previous year. Almost half of the items went for more than 100% of the value. And we had many, many more people participating in the auction. And we had never done any kind of a Facebook Live or kind of public Zoom event before. So that was a kind of a new thing for us. But I asked a few of the students who were participating to join us on that live call. We also had several videos that were produced for us by Storybridge.tv. They're a production company based here in Madison. They reached out to us to ask if they could help out in any way, and I immediately took them up on that offer, and they were connected to this pretty early. We were kind of scrambling through the month of April to get everything pulled together, but we managed to get it all together. We raised 31% more than we had in the previous year overall. And that was mostly because, of course, our auction did really well. We pulled more people in, and we had very few expenses because there was no food to be served. So that was kind of a positive thing for us. As far as technology goes, we had already been using Zoom for a while for board meetings and that sort of thing. But this was a whole new application of the software, and I had never done a Facebook Live event before that day. I tested it out a couple of times, and I actually was really inspired by what Liz had done with the Wisconsin Literacy event, and thought, well, maybe we can actually broadcast this direct to Facebook from Zoom. So we were kind of still scrambling around a lot with a lot of different moving pieces. And we did have an event specialist who helped us out with the getting all the items onto schoolauction.net. I estimate that she spent about 60 hours getting the auction site up and running. We were already planning to work with her. She had worked on the event last year, And we were asking her to kind of help out with organizing the auction for the event anyway. So we really just transitioned everything pretty quickly. And she wrote up a really nice review of the school auction site for us to consider for next year as well. In terms of community engagement, this is one area where I think we could have done better, but as far as, given the limited time that we had available and the limited staff that we had available as well, I think we did a pretty good job. We sent out regular emails. I think we sent out about 5 emails to our full list, asking them to get involved, giving them information about the various items that were available in the auction, thanking our sponsors. So we made sure that our sponsor logos were included in those messages, and making sure that people recognized what we were working on and how it was really important for our groups to participate. We posted our student videos on Facebook for a couple weeks before the event. We had about 65 people tune in for the live event, but a lot more people participating in the online auction. And those high quality videos really did make a big difference. We aired those during the live event on April 30th. We also made sure that they were very visible in our emails or in our social media postings. There are several things that I would do differently. Again, we were really kind of pressed for time to get this all up and running, and it was kind of a stressful event to pull off. I would want to assign more tech duties to additional staff so that we could be prepared for issues that were associated with the live event, and that's a big challenge as a direct service organization, to just have enough people to do that. So it was mostly me. We had a fairly new development director at the time, and Mary, the person who had been helping out with the auction. So all of us were kind of just scrambling to pull it all together. And of course, our program staff were all scrambling to get all the program side of things done together. So we didn't really have enough staff to manage everything. I would begin the prep for the auction, getting everything online as soon as possible, at least 2 months in advance. Make sure that you broaden your recruitment of the auction items. We had a good selection, but I would love to have more time to just plan all that out, just giving a couple of months. And then also, we had a giving tree. That was a webinar that I went to and talked about, using a giving tree to encourage people to support specific needs that the organization has. So like a laptop or books for students, things like that. Specific things that people could purchase without having to purchase an auction item. And we sold out of all 50 bottles of the wine that we had donated. So I would actually go out and recruit more donated wine. It was probably good timing that we were in the middle of a pandemic in some ways, because people were stocking up on things like wine. So having an event that was built on that helped quite a bit, but I think we could have had more available. So those are some of the things that we were able to do, and I was very pleased with the outcome. I think that we will probably do an online auction in the future, and I would strongly recommend the school auction page as well. So that's all I have, and I'm looking forward to answering questions later.
Hello, everyone.
I'm working on getting you the controls here, Christy. Just a second. Sorry about that.
So I can go ahead and just introduce myself again. But thanks, Jeff, for going over what the Literacy Network did many years ago as a volunteer there, tutor. So I always love to hear what you're doing. So I am with the Portage County Literacy Council, and we're based in Stevens Point. We have less than one full-time person. So I think that what we did might appeal to some of the smaller literacy councils out there. And, you know, when I'm looking at fundraising, we really don't have a lot of staff time to do fundraising, and we need to spend a lot of our staff time on programming. So I really look at those things carefully. And so this, of course, was a last minute twist in what we normally do. But I really thought, you know, this event for us is our biggest source of income. We are not funded by the United Way. We don't have core funding. We have a number of smaller funders that pull together and support what we do so that we can serve our learners in our community. So normally, our event looks like this. So we have Words and Friends for Literacy. Like many literacy councils, we come together, we play collaborative games of Scrabble. Teams of 4 sign up, they pay $100, they get door prizes, they get food, they have social fun times together. We have a variety of folks who come. A lot of businesses seem to like to do it as sort of part of their employee activities. Some of the sponsors bring teams. Tutors bring teams, and just general folks in the community who want to come and support what we do. So it happens on one night. It's fun. We raise a lot of our money from the sponsors, the team fees, but teams also can raise funds and compete for prizes as well. So they could get a prize for winning the Scrabble, or they could win it for being one of our biggest fundraisers. So obviously we found out pretty early that we were figuring that we probably wouldn't be able to hold this event. We usually hold it at the end of April. And we waited a little while to make that call. During that time, we had different discussions, and some folks said maybe we should just cancel the event altogether. I myself thought, you know, this is our biggest source of income. What we do relies on this event happening. We already have some of the sponsor money in place. There's got to be a way that we can figure this out. So I basically checked in with the top sponsors right away who have been partners for many years to say, hey, this is kind of what we're looking at, moving something online that'll look very different this year. Are you with us? And they did say that they were with us, and I found that to be true with many funders. If they have the means and their business hasn't been as impacted during this time, they have stuck with us, and they have recognized that just like they're doing things differently, we have to do things differently as well. So that's been something that's been very encouraging throughout this, is just to see how those funders understand what we're going through, that things are gonna look different, and want to keep supporting what we're doing. So a volunteer and I, knowing that we would, with those sponsorships, we would at least raise a minimum amount of money that would make it worth our time. We got together and just brainstormed different ideas. And really our theme was that we needed a really flexible event. How people's lives were being impacted was very different. Some people's availability was very different. Some people were working, some people weren't. Some people had kids at home. So we knew, let's make it to be a very flexible event. And whereas we normally have a one-day event, we decided to do it over 5 days. So what our event looked like, let me go back here. See if I can pull this up. Maybe not. It did pull up for me before. All right, sorry about that. So basically, we allowed teams to sign up for free. They could have a team of any size, and they could play any word game they wanted, anytime they wanted within those 5 days. They could play those word games offline, just like a Scrabble or something at home, or they could play word games online. So the theme there, you can see, it was very much flexibility. We wanted it to be, you know, maybe more kid-friendly too, knowing that some folks would be at home. So the types of games they would play would be different with their family or however they were socially distancing together. And then beyond that, we asked folks to share photos of themselves playing with our hashtags. We gave them one daily challenge to do. So that was optional, but we had daily challenges that are listed that were listed on our Facebook page that were, for example, like post a photo of yourself playing socially distantly, and then we would mark the top winner would get a prize for each of those daily challenges. We also gave prizes to the top fundraising teams like we would as normal. So what we normally do at the event is people can use Classy, which is a peer-to-peer giving site, or they can track their donations on a paper form. And normally the folks who come to our event, more folks bring checks and cash and do it on that paper form than do it online. But this year we actually didn't get it. We gave them the paper form option, but we had everyone did it online, and most people did use Classy. Some people did use Facebook. You can set up kind of a ongoing fundraising page there, and they did that as well. And I would say, even though I chose Classy, I liked that some folks did Facebook, and I would recommend that because it has fewer fees and it's really one click from Facebook to do it that way. So it's very useful. So folks were playing and posting things in different ways at different times during that week. They were raising money in different ways. And then on our page, what was sort of the continuous thing, we had 3 or 4 posts a day for those 5 days on our Literacy Council Facebook page. And those types of posts were really to raise awareness about what we do and just to get folks excited about the event, maybe give money or support it in some way. So some of our examples of that are on these next pages. Just have a couple collages here. I have trouble advancing, so I apologize.
Here, Christy, I can pull it up.
Yeah, I don't know why mine doesn't work. So for example, we had some staff and board members do posts of, why they believe in adult literacy. So they'd have a quote and a photo. We posted some of those. We had a number of sort of what we called local celebrities who we'd asked to send us a quote and a photo of them playing a word game or doing something fun like that. So some of ours, if you want to go ahead and advance, Anna. So some of ours were like our state representative, Katrina Shanklin, she did one. Our Portage County exec, Chris Holman, did one. One of our county supervisors, Supervisor Mua, did one. Local author Patrick Rothfuss, some folks may have heard of. We had a number, our new co-director has sort of a bluegrass background, so we had a number of local musicians. And we tagged those folks and they also shared it on their pages as well. So I think because of the variety of people who we had be our local celebrities and those audiences that connected with those folks or were part of their pages and saw it there, they shared it. I feel like we reached perhaps a broader audience than we normally do because it was different people. Some of the folks who come to the in-person event also did the online event, but in a lot of cases that wasn't true. It was a lot of different people as well who were doing it. So it was fun, and I think had the goal of, dual goals of we did reach our fundraising goal, and we did get a lot of outreach through folks on social media. So again, not everyone is on social media, but we did have broad reach of the folks who were on social media, who could see what we do and why adult literacy matters. So we did reach our goals, and we did, feel like it was a fun and positive event. I would say, as for like changes, I did get folks to send me everything ahead of time and then schedule those out on Facebook so that we didn't have to do a lot of live stuff. We didn't have time to monitor it for 5 days again with our staffing, and I just like to know everything's already set up so I could get that organized, and then it just sort of ran itself if you schedule all your posts on Facebook. So that's a plus. I think that we would have had, I probably would have changed I would think about how to change the donation mechanism. So like Classy normally works for us for peer-to-peer, But in that social media platform, I think people want to make one click. And if they already donate via Facebook, it's very easy to just like click on your link and not have to enter all your information again in another site, you know, the Classy site. So I would definitely evaluate what I wanted to be my donation mechanism to make it as easy as possible for the donor. Yeah, but overall, I would say I was very happy with our results. Again, that we met our goals. In some ways, I'm a little more concerned about next year as this goes on. And so I'm already going to be, you know, thinking about that in the back of my mind and thinking about who to pull in to think about, you know, what does it look like next year when we go to sponsorships if this continues. So thanks so much. I look forward to your questions, and I'll pass it along to Sheryl.
And just one comment, Jeff also said that with the online event, oops, I'm sorry, I lost his comment here. Let me pull that up, that he felt they reached a broader audience online than with the in-person event. And also, they didn't have a lot of major donors who came to the in-person events, but he felt that with the online event, they did.
All right, so for the Literacy Council, we often, like I think many literacy councils, have our major fundraising event in the spring. So ours was scheduled for the end of March, and we were already well on our way to having a very successful event. We'd already met our sponsorship goal for the event. We do a spelling bee, so we had all the teams committed, and we were selling tickets. When it was about the second week of March, right, when we needed to decide, everything was kind of closing. So we decided at that point that we were going to postpone our spelling bee event in hopes of rescheduling it for later. And that has since turned into we're going to reschedule it for a virtual event. But in the meantime, what we did was we decided to have an online auction as well, and we held the online auction during the event, during the week that we would have had the spelling bee, and it started on the day that we would have had our actual in-person event. And since we were already so close to our event, we had really been publicizing that date for quite a while. So we felt like it was a good connection to something on that date. So that's when we kicked off our online auction. It's the first time we have done an online auction, and it was a great experience for us as well. We kept it smaller. We didn't use all of the items that we had collected for the auction because we were thinking we were still maybe going to have some kind of event down the road. So we intentionally had a smaller auction, but we on average raised more per item than we did in the past in our in-person events. So that was wonderful. One of the things that we also included in the online auction was an opportunity for people to sponsor a student or sponsor a program. And we had people who were excited to be able to do that as well. So that was kind of a new thing that we took on. So typically when we do the spelling bee, I think it's like a lot of your events too, right? When we have a typical in-person event, we would do things like silent auction. We usually have a silent auction, a live auction, raffles. We have students who speak during the program. We usually have, it's a spelling bee, so we have usually 12 teams of 4 plus like all of our officials and volunteers, but then an audience of between 200 and 250 people. So it's a good amount of people that we get in a room to learn about the Literacy Council and our mission. So definitely as we move on to a virtual event, we want to make those same connections with people in the community to be engaging people and keep people engaged in the meantime. So we now know that we're going to do a virtual live event in September for Literacy Month. So we're going to move our spelling bee to that, we're using YouTube Live. We have some board members. We're very fortunate to have board members that have expertise in this area and have done other live events and video production, specialists and marketing professionals and things that we can draw on for their expertise. So that's fantastic. Let's see. When we decided we needed to reschedule, we knew we wanted to kind of keep people engaged between when we were going to have the event and when we were going to reschedule the event. So like I said, one of the things we did was that online auction, but we've also done some other things on Facebook just to kind of keep people engaged. We've done some Facebook fundraisers that have been really successful for us and a good opportunity to keep people kind of engaged in our mission and feeling like they're supporting us. And then we're getting ready for, I don't have a lot of information to share about that quite yet. Hopefully it will be wonderfully successful like these other ones, and then we can report back how it goes. But I'm happy to answer questions that people have too.
Thank you. Sheryl, you broke up just a second. You broke up just a little bit there. Can you say what you're looking forward to? What's coming up?
So we are doing our spelling bee as a virtual live event on YouTube. So.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Just the last thing you said kind of broke up. So I thought, was there something else?
Okay.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to open it up for questions. Cassie, before you share what's in the chat, Noelle Braun has her hand up. So I'm going to unmute you, Noelle. If you have something, did you have a question you wanted to ask? I think we're having some trouble connecting to your audio. So please feel free to type in the chat box too if you have any questions. Cassie, do we have any, are there any questions in there?
Not really. Oh, wait, let's see. What do we have? Lily just put in, what tips do you have in building your marketing list, growing your Facebook group, and your Facebook supporters? So I think, let's see, we have that. And then
let me see if anybody wants to address that question.
Sure.
Any of our panelists? Go ahead, Jeff.
A couple of things that we do on a regular basis with social media is we develop a lot of stories of our students, and so we make sure that we're sharing good news about what they're doing in their own in their words as well. So that book of student writing is something that we use throughout the year. We share on our Facebook page. We also take out a few Facebook ads on occasion, but I don't think that really accounts for very much of the active following that we have.
Thank you, Jeff. Do any of the other panelists want to address that question from Lily? Sheryl.
Hi, so I absolutely agree with Literacy Network. We do that as well. We try to share personal stories and videos from the students because that's what people engage in the most. Definitely lots of photos from our programming, which right now is lots of little Zoom boxes, but we still are trying to share lots of photos of programming that's happening, and that's really what people are kind of engaged in sharing. And so it's more about what happens in particular in our program and less about sharing links and articles and things like that. So really things that are specific to our programming and our students, quotes from tutors about their experience, but then also, especially in the beginning, to really kind of get people engaged and get new people following your page, is really use your supporters that you already have, so your students and your volunteers and your board, and make sure that they understand that it's very important for them to like your posts and comment on your posts and share your posts, because then everything will get seen more often. So that's a really easy, concrete thing you can do, is just say, hey, the challenge to board members is every time you see a post from us, share it on your page. And if you do that on a regular basis, you're going to increase the number of people who see your things, and you'll have more followers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We do some Facebook or social media campaigns periodically, but really we do get a lot of that organic support. So even during this event, people didn't post like a ton on our page, but we're a small community. I'm friends with tutors, I'm friends with learners. Like the people who were posting or team members that I saw posting were getting a lot more traction. You know, they were getting traction on their personal pages. And I think everyone describes like the value of your services differently. And so I love, like, we will try to put that into our campaigns. But I love just seeing that on their personal pages in their own words, like why they value what we do. And I think that has a big impact in speaking to different people. So I think we do a lot of that. For this campaign, I also pinpointed some people I knew who were active because I thought, I don't really love, I mean, I use Facebook, but I know I'm not like a leader on Facebook. So I could identify who in our network was, right? Like, so who could I go to and say, hey, would you mind like helping promote this? And those folks who like to do that stuff, they're happy to do it.
I think this is maybe one of the things that Jeff mentioned when you're having an event, get other staff members and volunteers involved in the technology. That's one of the things that we found really beneficial is when we have an event, we target a few key people and say, you're the ones that are going to do Facebook Live for us. And you're going to, be posting photos throughout the event because you're so busy at the time that you can't really do that. So if you can pinpoint a couple of key board members or volunteers that's really something they like to do anyways, and just give them that responsibility.
We did have some, like we have some board members that don't use social media at all. And I did tell those folks like they could send me the picture, they could send me the quote. So I think just also facilitating, if someone really wants to participate and they're not on social media, we just did a little bit to help them feel like they were a part of things.
Right, and Liz, I think I got you unmuted. It says you're in on the phone. So I did have you muted. So I did unmute you. So it might work now. No, we still can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Hey, yay. I'm a stats junkie. So I do also look at what do people respond to in the network and try to keep kind of playing those things. Our network's a little different. Obviously, stories about you all and your learners and your tutors, people love to hear those stories. They're very impactful. We do videos and just doing videos with your phone even, or having, recording a Zoom conversation now that that's an option. I did that with Marsha, and actually that video did really, really well because people love Marsha. And Marsha, you're here too for the call. And the other thing that we did to kind of initially start growing our list was the staff, and so you could probably do this with your board, invited people to like our page. So that's another thing. If you're now starting to think, oh, we need to grow this Facebook network, that's another way to do it. So those are the things that I think have worked for us. And we're just going to continue to keep kind of following where people's interests are. In our case, stats, because of what we do and what we represent. And right now, COVID resources are super huge, but that's because, again, that's where our expertise is, and that's people follow us for a number of reasons, and that's one of them. So just playing to your audience, your community. So that'll help grow your network.
Great. What else are you seeing in the chat, Cassie? We have about 5 minutes for questions.
Let's see. Actually, Marsha just said, don't forget that although your event is online, you still need a raffle license for the usual silent auctions, 50-50. Let's see. Oh, Noelle apologized. She didn't mean to hit the hand raising button. And let's see. David is interested in how much money was raised.
David, I posted a little bit in the chat box about the participation and how much was raised overall, about $33,000.
Great. And then also after the online event, did you mail auction items and wine to the winners, or how did you handle that?
We had people come pick them up from our location, so they scheduled a time with us that they could pick them up. And it was just, we just brought them out. Like there was one staff member and we would meet, you know, bring it out to the parking lot for them so that there wasn't any.
Great.
It was safe.
Did anyone get any funder pushback with the virtual setting?
No.
We've had a couple of our sponsors, you know, ask, "What are you still going to do something? We hope you still will have some kind of event," but nobody who was like, "Give me my money back because you're not doing what you said you were going to do." I think everyone is pretty understanding of the situation.
Yeah, we had some people, you know, a lot of sponsors were already in the process, either had sent in their check or were in the process, but we did have some folks who hadn't yet, who still did sign on after we've changed to virtual. So I think just that communication, and then just recognizing that some businesses are impacted differently. So not for the, well, I guess it was for the event. Technically, they would normally be listed as a sponsor. We have one in-kind donor, the only in-kind donor for the event, who was hit particularly hard, so they weren't able to do it this year, which is fine. You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
They have to make those choices.
Yeah, we had the same kind of experience, Christy. We were able to get a few additional sponsors after deciding to go virtual, and then we had an online or an in-kind sponsor who said they weren't going to be able to do it because they were going to donate a bunch of printing, and they were pretty hit hard with that challenge.
I think our sponsors, like, we thought we were canceling it, and then they all said that it could convert to donations, and then we called them back and say, you know what, we're going to keep this online. So it was pretty good news for us, and the sponsors were really wonderful. I think one of the things that I would think of going forward, if we had more time, is there's a lot of creative ways that you can market and show love to your sponsors when you're having a virtual event. That's a little different than the in-person. Like, I mean, for example, our sponsors are on that YouTube video for forever, right? So they're out there playing for that broad audience that they wouldn't have had their logos out there in that way in person. It would have been on a poster that you would have seen one time, as opposed to this video that can live for a while. So I think as you consider your events going online, think about those creative ways that sponsors that love. Definitely tagging them more, as I learned a little bit later. But yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and we had some things that had been donated. Like, we didn't need as many door prizes because we weren't in person, but we did have some prizes, and some of those we did just like individually. People bought and don't, like board members or me or whatever, because I didn't want to go to a business and ask, like a restaurant, and ask for a gift certificate at the point that they're going through this, you know, they were having a different financial situation than normal. So I think it's just like any relationship, like when you do go to your sponsors, just having kind of that respectful conversation, and even if it's a smaller prize too, understanding that, you know, depending on what happens here going forward, that they are in different situations. And really with our team donations, we did communicate to teams as well that, you know, yes, we're trying to raise funds, but everyone's having a different situation. So we just try to take the pressure off of everyone, like put it out there. Some people will be able to donate, some people won't, and like have a good time and promote the Literacy Council.
So Cassie, I do see we have two more questions here,
Yes.
and we do want to give, Jessica Doyle is here to talk a little bit about Wisconsin literacy governance. So I want to give her a couple of minutes too. So maybe if just one of you would answer the next question. What is the % of employee time versus board time in putting the fundraiser together? Maybe, and keeping in mind, you guys, we're all from different sized organizations. So does anybody want to take a stab at that question?
I didn't really have any board members involved. If I had a board member that loved events, that would be fine. But I usually recruit specific event volunteers who have that interest and desire. So I cannot tell you for this event how much staff time it was. I didn't really count the, because we did it over 5 days, you'd just be checking it at night. But I did use as much volunteer time as I could. So that's not very specific, but
Great.
I
So
do find it helpful to, I think there was, Wisconsin Literacy did encourage us to go to a board training one time. And I do always remember, like they said in that board training, like let your board members like show you their strengths. So like if one of their strengths is fundraising, involve them that, right? We do need them all to be involved in some way. But how they're involved will look different. And we just really needed more volunteers who like had a specific interest in fundraising, and those folks are out there. So we've just used that separately.
Right. So Christy, you just answered the next question. How long was the online event? For Portage County, it was 5 days. Jeff, Sheryl, and Elizabeth, could you, or Beth, or Liz, oh my gosh, I'm not used to seeing your name as Elizabeth. Liz, could you each just talk real quickly, how long was your online event?
An hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. So our online auction went for a week, but the live event is going to be about an hour and a half.
Our online auction lasted for 2 weeks, and our live portion was about 55 minutes.
Great, thank you. And thank you so much to all of you guys for everything you shared. That was so insightful and so helpful. So thank you again to all of our panelists. I just want to mention these are our upcoming professional development, and I'm going to leave this meeting up for a couple of minutes, even though we're closing it, because Cassie is putting in the chat box links to all of the registration to all of this information. And then also please watch your email for a message from Beth that will have this recording in it, and also this recording, and then also a link to the survey. So thanks again to all of our panelists, and I wish you all a great rest of your afternoon, and good luck with any fundraisers that you have coming up.